the genre of this film, because a lot of people label this as a so-called LGBTQ film, and it definitely has that element. But there's also the first couple of minutes, it starts almost like a horror film, and then there's elements of comedy. There's a thriller. It's a kind of police procedural. It's a buddy film. It's a love story. It's all of these different things rolled into one. And I was wondering if you could both talk a little bit about how you approach the film from the perspective of genre or crossing genres.
这题我可以用。
好 ，OK。
When writing the script, and I started to add mixed genre elements, and including changing the main character's occupation from a street cleaner to a detective, so that the criminal cases could be involved into this movie, and also because the other main character is a ghost. So I decided to enlarge some supernatural elements to the movie. And everyone can worry about mixing to many genres in the beginning. But my approach is that if we split all movie stories into foreground stories and the background story, we are usually familiar with foreground story. We will say, this is a crime, this is a thriller, kind of. So when people describe a movie, it is based on a foreground story because it's easier to define the main atmosphere on the surface of the movie. But in fact, I kept reminding my cast and crew to pay more attention on the background story. Our movie actually is a road movie and a romance about these two guys, and the audience will follow the movie flow by experience these two guys' growth arc and mutual help, something like that. So I think mastering the background story is the key to mixing all genres, and that might be the key reason why the whole movie will not be scattered in different genres.
Yes. Do you want to add anything about from a producer's perspective in terms of selling the money, getting funding, distribution? Was the fact that it crosses so many genres a challenge, or how did you market it when you were talking about the various in the various forums?
I think Eric speak pretty much for our thoughts, but I'd like to add that because we want to have something fun, something with light humor to package as a mixed genre film, but actually indeed to convey some deep inside social issues and maybe supportive to the LGBTQ, something like that. And then we want to talk it in different perspectives other than the LGBTQ films before. So that's why we choose the mixed genre film to represent the thoughts of our crew.
So some films have a twist at the end. We just saw the end, and it has not just 2 or 3 twists, but maybe 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 twists. Could you talk about how you designed the ending and what went into that process?
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm speaking Chinese. It's too complicated to express. 其实我自己的电影，我一直都会希望都有带有一个悬疑性，就是让他可以在观影的过程、看电影的过程，其实是可以享受一种反转的乐趣。所以其实每次在电影的情节设定上面，其实我都会特意的设计一些 twist 在里面。有时候那个 twist 可能是来自于角色关系，比如说大家看到爸爸跟儿子之间的那个关系，原来事实上是爸爸有别的想法在里面，但他还是用别的方式在爱着儿子。然后 后或者是像那个里面有一个女生的女警的角色，她其实一开始是看起来是个花瓶，但她最后其实扮演很重要的反派角色。对，类似这样的角色的一个身份的反转，也是我觉得自己在电影设计的时候很喜欢的，即便这是一个 action comedy。
So one thing that I always like about my films is having this element of suspense and incorporating twists and turns into the films. That's a decision that sometimes I incorporate into the very characterization when I'm designing the films. You can see that here in terms of father-son relationship. Initially, it seems like the father's against the relationship for one reason, but it turns out to be something very different. You can also see it in the character of the female police officer, who at first seems to be like the beauty who just gets all the looks, but yeah, in the end, she's actually a major antagonist in the film. I gotta ask you this, because besides being a film director, you also directed several music videos for people like Jolin Tsai and big artists in Taiwan. And of course, the music video is a very different aesthetic, where the story has to take place within 4 or 5 minutes. The visuals are very different. I'm wondering, in what ways has your experience as a music video director influenced your work in film? Are there any specific examples you can give us of, say, ways in which that experience maybe impacted your decisions on a film like this?
我觉得作为导演，每次都会思考我这一次要说的故事，它的篇幅有多长。它可能可以说就是4到5分钟的话，那我可能知道我就是选择一个最主要的故事情节，然后把它适当的放大。然后我们通常在故事里面会有所谓的起承转合，但是其实在短片里面或 music video 里面，它可能就是起完，你就要想办法到转，它甚至不一定要合。它可以留下一个悬念，然后就结束了这个短片故事。但是长片通常不是，长片通常就是要把起承转合要做好，而且每一个环节的 impact 你可能都要想清楚，因为他们要带着这个东西，观众会带着这个东西或一个 hook， 观众会带着东西开始往下走。
So I think it's an issue of scale. So if I'm going to direct something to say 10 to 15 minutes long, I know kind of what I'm dealing with in terms of the scope of the plot. I'm going to create a certain resolution, a tension. In Chinese, we talk about these 4 elements of a plot: for the beginning, the kind of development, a shift, and then a resolution. And so if I'm doing a music video, maybe I don't have time to go through all 4 of those. Maybe it's just we leave everything hanging in the end with a kind of suspense, or maybe it's just the beginning and a development, and then we don't even get to that major shift or the tension. And so it really depends on what scale you're working with. Maybe, Jin, could you talk a little bit about the early development of this project and how it came together?
At the very beginning, we saw the concept from a creative story competition, and this concept won the first prize. The original concept was a street cleaner who accidentally picked up a red envelope and forced to marry a gay host. It's not that much criminal elements inside. Then director chose to change the occupation to the detective, just like the expressed before. And then we start the journey to do a long-term development with a scriptwriter for like 3 years, right? And then to find the wonderful cast, Ming-Han and Mao, the 2 superstars in Taiwan, and then we just made it.
About 20 years ago, I interviewed Edward Young, and during that interview, he had a lot of complaints about the Taiwan film industry, that it lacked an infrastructure, it lacked distribution channels, and that was, I think, a big source of frustration for him. And when 20 years later, say a film like this, which is a fairly big commercial film, what is the industry like in Taiwan to support a film like this, and how have things changed over the last, say, 20 years?
这个我觉得可能用中文回答比较合适，是这个电影我们在台湾获得了很大的支持，观众非常非常的喜欢。虽然它是有 LGBTQ 的元素，一般来讲它的票房不会太好， 但是这一次，因为我们有混合的类型，我们有很好的明星卡司，虽然是包裹了一些想要谈论的议题，但是它在台湾达到了非常好的商业的成功。对我来说，无论是观众、产业，或者是甚至在全球的市场来讲，对这个作品都有很好的一个反馈。我认为这是对于台湾的电影产业来讲很棒的一步，因为对于后面的创作者来说，他可以挑战更大胆的题目，他可以去不用考虑，也许为之前票房表现不是那么好的题材或者是内容，因为其实不管是用什么样的形式表现，只要能够跟观众沟通，大家都会给你回报。
I'll respond to this in Chinese, and I think this is a film that we've been very fortunate to have excellent support from, whether it be audiences in Taiwan, whether it be distribution networks, whether it be funding and festivals and various support. It's really performed very well, and we're very happy with the way that it did in Taiwan. As you know, it has very strong LGBTQ themes here, which sometimes can have a negative impact on the box office on certain films, but this one actually did very, very well. And so we couldn't be happier, and we're also hopeful that its success will open the doors for other filmmakers and make it easier to make commercial films like this that experiment with different genres, that kind of deal with LGBTQ themes, and it'll kind of challenge people to open their eyes to more themes and open up more opportunities. Speaking of LGBTQ themes in film in Taiwan, Taiwan's very unique in that, I think in the mid-80s, Yu Kanping made Nids, The Outsiders, adaptation of Bai Xingyong's novel. That was probably one of the earlier kind of films in this theme that was made. And then we have this kind of explosion right around 2000 with Formula 17, Shichisui with Tiangong, Blue Gate Crossing, Lanzadama, you have the TV adaptation of Nianzi, also adapted from the same material. And there's really been this kind of renaissance of queer cinema in Taiwan. And I was wondering if each of you could talk a little bit about your reflections on why Taiwan has been so successful in embracing a topic that probably even better than the United States and a lot of Western countries in terms of the visibility of queer themes and queer stories on screen.
的确，台湾在谈论 LGBTQ 这些元素的内容上，我认为一直都是非常的开放，也非常的包容，所以这些内容很早就已经开始有创作者在尝试。但是由于其实跟其他的环境一样，就是这个族群它是比较弱势的，他们是很期待可以发声的，所以过往的作品可能表达的面向都比较写实，都比较压抑。能够让人感觉得到这样子的族群的无奈，或者是他们的苦处。那时至今日，其实台湾已经走到了一个不管是因为2019年同婚通过之后，整个社会的风气变得更开放了，开始有一些冲突会开始发生。当同婚法通过之后，这些可以获得正常婚姻管道的这些伴侣们，他们是不是真的能够开始跟大家体验一样的生活？还是他们开始也有了跟之前其他的族群有了一样的烦恼。其实我觉得台湾是非常有趣的，可以提前来探讨这个价值观的一个地方，所以才有了这个作品。这其实今年能够代表台湾，我们会非常的开心，是因为这部作品谈论的价值、谈论的话题，其实它只能在台湾发生。这是很有趣的，这是同性婚后发生的种种一切，所以我认为的确就如主持人刚刚所说，台湾对于谈论 LGBTQ 相关的内容来讲，我觉得大家如果感兴趣的话，可以多多关注。我希望我们有提供一个不一样的视角。
So I think in many ways Taiwan as a society is much more open and embracing when it comes to themes like this. And for a long time, when LGBTQ themes first started appearing in films, I think people from that group were very much marginalized. A lot of the films had this darkness, and there was you could sense the kind of frustration that people were dealing with. But that's changed now, because in 2019, Taiwan passed a law that resulted in the legalization of same-sex marriage. And from that period, I think some of the tensions that you saw in the earlier films started to undergo a change. But that also creates new opportunities to reflect on the status of people from the queer community in Taiwan. Just because they passed the law, are they just the same as everyone else? Or are there new challenges and different kind of challenges that they face that others don't face? And so this is one thing I'm very proud of when it comes to this film, is this is a story that really could only be told in Taiwan. This is a story that could only take place in Taiwan. It really couldn't happen anywhere else in the world. And I think that uniqueness is really important, and I hope that it often also inspires audiences to dig in and explore other aspects of Taiwan society. You know, I think maybe for time constraint, can we take an audience question or no? Okay, so I'm told by the boss we'll have to stop here, unfortunately. But again, this is the QR code that we mentioned earlier, which you can scan and use that to vote for your favorite film and rate the films. But what I think we should all do is give a warm round of applause to 2000 for this incredible film. And we're going to do a group photo, so you can stay seated for just a moment. Richard's going to take